A lot of videos on getting bigger biceps will say something like, just do this one awesome exercise, or this is the one weird exercise you need to get massive biceps. That's not actually the case. It's much more about how you do rather than what you do. And so in this video, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how you actually get bigger arms and the principles behind it rather than just a couple of different moves. So basically, in order to get bigger arms, you need to work the biceps and the triceps. That's the first tip. Anything that says you can get bigger arms by just curling is a little bit misleading, because you will get bigger arms, but not as much bigger as they could be if you're also focusing an equal amount on triceps. A lot of people know this already, but just to recap for those who don't already, the biceps are about 1/3 of the arm, with the triceps making up the other 2/3. That's what people say. To me, it looks a bit more like 50-50. I think even the pro bodybuilders probably will spend at least the same amount of time on the biceps as the triceps, but the point is, don't neglect your triceps whatever you do, because if you neglect your triceps, then you'll end up with a little bump and you won't have that nice underneath bit that makes your arms actually look big. So make sure you're doing triceps and biceps at least 50-50. So that's one tip. Also, by the way, work your deltoids, particularly the lateral deltoid, the medial deltoids. That's the head that goes along the side. You work it with moves like this, raises, lateral raises. The reason for this being is that it gives you a kind of like nice triangle shape. I'm still working on that, I don't have it quite there yet, but if you look at, say, Apollo Creed, what's that guy's name? Carl Weathers, he's got the most awesome shoulders, and it makes his whole arm look bigger, so also work on the arms. It's the same with the abs. If you want to have a cool looking midsection, it's not just about getting the transverse abdominis, the rectus abdomini, it's also about getting the obliques, getting it flatter. You know, any one muscle group is actually normally a combination of multiple different muscles in order to get that look of size and detail. But that's academic. So let's get on to the real meat of this video, which is to say that the real way to get bigger arms is actually to train with lighter weights and to do higher repetitions. I've just done an arm workout to get my arms nice and pumped for you guys. So this is actually quite hard for me now, but the point is, normally with these are 15s, I would normally be able to do around 15 repetitions, 20 at a push, and that's what you should be aiming for in order to get size. That's what all the big bodybuilders say. It's more about volume than it is about weight. Trust me, this doesn't sit easy with me either, because I really enjoy really pulverizing myself with heavy weights. Note that we're talking about hypertrophy here. We're talking about muscle size, not necessarily muscle strength. If it's getting bigger arms you're interested in, you want to increase the volume. There's a misconception that high repetition is about toning and low repetition is about building muscle. That's completely incorrect. Doing low repetitions of a very high weight creates more micro tears, and that thickens the muscle fibers. That makes your arms much stronger. That's why actually the best way to build strength is to do things like overcoming isometric training, where you're just pulling and not getting anywhere. It's all about the force if you want to build strength. If you want to build size, it seems to be about getting to that point where you're feeling the pump, and the best way of doing that is to push self-pass failure and to do high volume. That means high repetitions. And to do that, the best way is actually with a lighter weight. So you're aiming for 12, 15, or even 20 rep range. That doesn't mean you can't also do a heavy weight. What I like to do is something called mechanical drop sets. I've talked about them before on this channel. The idea is that you do a few repetitions of a very heavy weight, maybe doing underhand curls or overhand curls. Then you switch to something like a slight cheat hammer curl, and this allows you to carry on doing high repetition after you've already exhausted yourself with that difficult weight. You don't even have to change weight, so you can go straight into it, as many as that as you can, and as many as this. But the point is, you're keeping up the momentum, you're keeping up the high repetitions, you're kind of getting all that blood, all that oxygen into the muscles, fueling them with hormones and with nutrients, and fueling growth. Some people talk about sarcoplasmic hypertrophy versus myofibrillar hypertrophy, and this is the difference between sarcoplasmic being the one that creates size versus myofibrillar being the one that creates strength. There's all this talk about sarcoplasmic hypertrophy being to do with stretching the fascia being the kind of tissue that surrounds the muscles and the joints and holds everything in place. They say you need to stretch that by getting the pump, by getting the oxygen and blood in there in order to allow yourself to grow more. This is all very weakly backed by science though. There's not that much explanation for why this would be the case, and sarcoplasmic hypertrophy is in fact really just a theory. It's definitely not concrete. But from experience, if you look at any big bodybuilder, they'll use the kind of Joe Wader training principles to push themselves past failure, and whether they're doing it via a drop set, running the rack, whether they're doing some kind of superset, they will do high repetitions. And I've got some friends back at home, and they started using much lighter weights and doing these crazy 20 rep exercises, really slow, controlled movements, and they just exploded, they just ballooned. I didn't believe it either, but I've been doing it myself, and my arms have grown in size quite quickly. So as much as you might not like to hear it, if it's hypertrophy you're interested in, then you need to start training with lighter weights, and you need to do higher volume. Shorten your rest period and just get to that feeling where your muscles feel like they're swelling. Basically, the more pumped you can get them in the workout, the more that will correlate with growth. Of course, everybody is different. You might find that this doesn't necessarily work the same way for you as it has done for me and my friends and all those bodybuilders. A lot of people say that this is a way that you train more if you're on steroids. I'm not on steroids, neither are my friends, but I happen to have quite good genetics. You might find that this type of training exhausts you, but give it a go anyways. Well, that's all I'm saying. Just give it a go. Try for a couple of months doing lighter weights, higher volume, and you should find that you grow. Even if this isn't the ideal way of training for you, if you've been doing your training with higher weights and lower reps recently, then just the shock, just the change to your routine will make a big difference. So hope that's helped. Give it a go, and hope to see your arms getting huge. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more videos like this. Catch you later. Bye.